Hello, I'm David Ireson, and I'd like to tell you something about Carillon's next concert, which is to be given on Saturday the 24th of November at 7:30 in St John's Church, Harpenden. It's called The English Revival, and there are three reasons why I've chosen that title. The first is one of language. The first two pieces we're going to sing are by William Byrd. William Byrd was one of the great composers of the first Elizabethan age, and he was a Catholic. He was appointed to be organist of Lincoln Cathedral in 1563 at the age of 23, and when life began to get difficult for Catholics after the Reformation, he moved to London, to the Chapel Royal, where he was under the guidance, or the protection really, of the Queen, who was rather more tolerant, at least of musicians who were going to be very useful to her. So he wrote in English, he wrote in Latin and then in English, and so this is called the English Revival because this marks the time when church music was again written in English and not in Latin. And we're going to sing two motets by Byrd. We're also going to sing two motets by Orlando Gibbons. He was another composer who worked at the Chapel Royal. He was organist at the Chapel Royal and then became organist of Westminster Abbey. We're going to sing two contrasting pieces by him, and I've chosen them because of the contrast. The first one is very personal and introverted, "O Lord, in thy wrath rebuke me not." And the second, much more outgoing and celebratory, "O clap your hands together, all ye people," a piece for 8 voices, a setting of Psalm 47. Interestingly, William Byrd had been a chorister at the Chapel Royal, and last season we sang Tallis's Puer Natus Mass, and it's generally thought that William Byrd was a treble at the time because he and Tallis were about 30 years apart. Tallis became his mentor, and Byrd was a very astute political operator. He and Tallis together got a patent from the Queen which enabled them to sell foreign music, English music, and even manuscript paper. So after these two, we're then going to move on to the second reason for the title, which is one of composition. After the time of Purcell, there was a bit of a dearth of great composers in England until we get to the time of Elgar, Stanford and Parry. Charles Villiers Stanford was born in Ireland but worked all his life in England. He was a founding professor of the Royal College of Music and taught there until his death, and he taught Holst and Vaughan Williams amongst other people. He must have been a pretty amazing musician because when he was an undergraduate at Cambridge and not even reading music, he was appointed to be Director of Music at Trinity College while still an undergraduate. So he must have been really something a bit special. We're going to sing 3 of his Latin motets that he wrote in his 50s. He wrote them for his old college, Trinity College, and Alan Gray, their Director of Music. And they are usually done with the loudest one last. But I've decided to do them in the order in which they were written. So the first one, Justorem Animae, the souls of the righteous are in the hand of God. The second one, Chalos Ascendit, which is the loud one. And the third one, Beati Quorum, which is definitely the most beautiful of them. So we'll do them in the order in which they were written. The second half of the concert starts with a piece by Vaughan Williams called Valiant for Truth. Vaughan Williams was fascinated by travel. He wrote a song cycle called Songs of Travel, the Sea Symphony, of course, and the opera that he wrote, Pilgrim's Progress, was premiered in about 1951, but it was a long time in gestation because he was obviously thinking about it and wrote this piece 11 years beforehand. Valiant for Truth, the words, of course, by John Bunyan. Now, the third reason for the title is one of style, because the main work of the concert, which is Vaughan Williams's G minor Mass, was the first Mass to be written in the English style since the 16th century. Vaughan Williams wrote it for Gustav Holst and his Whitsuntide Singers. They didn't actually give the first performance, that was given by the City of Birmingham Choir, and the first liturgical performance was given in Westminster Cathedral. Interestingly, that it should be a Catholic cathedral which gave the first performance. It's a wonderful piece and shows Vaughan Williams really at the absolute pinnacle of his choral writing. Now, because I have a slight dislike for wall-to-wall choral concerts, I've asked Greg Hurl to come and play the clarinet, and he's going to play music by Gerald Finzi, another wonderful English composer. He's going to play 5 bagatelles, which are lovely little pieces, very tuneful and in different moods. And Finzi was obviously a great writer for the clarinet, as we know from the popularity of his clarinet concerto. He's also going to play a piece by Simon Holt, which is called Brief Candle. He's a contemporary composer, and this piece uses a technique called multiphonics. Now, multiphonics for the layman means playing 2 notes at once, so I'm fascinated to see how this will sound and to see how he's going to do it. So, a concert of the best of English music from William Byrd up to the present day. It's at 7:30 on the Saturday the 24th of November in St John's Church, Harpenden, and it would be very nice if you could join us there.